Hey guys, so today I want to talk about drifting, or at least doing some skid pan work in an Evo X. So I found it hard to find one of these on eBay. Essentially I just typed in Evo X Drift Button and there were a number of cheap ones available, and then I found one here that I'll put a link up to, which was probably about 20 or 30 American dollars. So by the time it got to Australia it was about 40 or 50 dollars, which is quite dear. But this one's actually a wrinkle cut finish, which is very much like an OEM sort of finish. So if you've got your stock handbrake lever and you're wanting it to look the same, then I can confirm that that is a really good fit and it looks standard. But if you've got an aftermarket handbrake lever like this carbon fiber sort of appearance one, then it still looks good as well. It's black, it's not colored, it's not going to draw much attention to the police officer. But I'm just going to show you now how to install it. So if you've got a aftermarket handbrake cover like I do, then you simply just have to undo the grub screws on either side, and then this handbrake cover comes off. If you've got the standard handbrake cover, you can see in my last video, all you've got to do is just simply pull that off the handbrake lever and away that goes. So then you've got the handbrake button, the handbrake itself, and inside here there is a spring and there is a threaded shaft that the handbrake button tightens onto. So here's a stock button, and just unscrew that like you're turning on a tap. Just keep your hand underneath so that the spring that's there doesn't fall out. It shouldn't, that's pretty large or long spring. And when you use a drift button, you will no longer have a purpose for the spring. So keep this somewhere safe, because when you're tired of going to skid pans and you're over it, you'll want to put this back. If you don't, then the spring-loaded function of the handbrake doesn't work. So in here there is the threaded shaft that I was telling you about. So away goes the standard handbrake button, and in comes the drift button. So the drift button has a thread that looks just like this. Okay, same one and roughly the same height. All you've got to do is just make sure that you move the drift button around until you've got that thread nice and centered, and then very gently, might take a little bit of playing around, very gently just start threading it. If it doesn't thread right, stop straight away, obviously, and start threading again. So that's how that would go on, just like that. Of course, I've forgotten to put the handbrake cover on. So there you go. Grub screws would go in there. Now it gets a little bit harder when you've got this handbrake cover on, because that rod of course does not sit perfect. So probably the best thing you can do, as you can see it comes out like that, is use your finger to try and get it in a position where it's nice and centered, just like that. Put the handbrake cover on. There you go, it's moved, so you got to be really careful. Nice and centered there. Okay, so nice and smooth. There you go, it's in the middle. So boom, we're in business. Alright, so with this one I'll just turn it till it feels like it's starting to grab, and you don't want to overturn it, because what will happen is you'll stuff up the thread inside this nylon or plastic piece. So it doesn't need to be super tight. Now when you've got that on, then when you want to use your handbrake, bear with me and I'll just do the scrub screw up. I'm going to do one side. So because you've got rid of this spring, the button now works just like that. So you'll be driving along, you might be at your skid pan day or some sort of drift meet. The Evo X is pretty good at doing drift work, particularly of course in the rain. Not so much in the dry, you'd have to have some pretty decent power, I guess, or quite a responsive turbo, but it works really well. If you look through my history of videos on Instagram, you'll see that I was out at a track, had some good success, also had some bad success, unluckily damaged my front lip on my car, but that's what modding and driving and enjoying your car is all about. So when you want to lock up your back wheels, you just simply hold that up. You only need to do it for a split second, locks the back wheels, and then away you go. So you might be wondering, well, how do you actually make your handbrake work? What happens when you're parking on a hill? So you pull it up, and then you use your thumb to pull out the tab like that, and then that puts it in a lock position. So if you want to then put the handbrake down and start driving, then you just lift it up whilst putting the button in like normal, and then away you go. So that's how you actually install a drift button. Good fun. I had it on for a few months, did my track days, then realized what happens if I go to some sort of valet service or someone else that I don't know works on my car, or I drop my car off at the performance shop that I go to and the person's not quite onto it, and they go to put the handbrake on, they put the car in park, and then all of a sudden they're relying on an SST box to stop rather than the handbrake. So I ended up removing it. As you can see, it only takes a few minutes to install. Hope you've enjoyed that. Please like, comment and subscribe. Have a good day.